Ba, 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 ba. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez. Joining you, what the hell do you want, PC? PC wants something from me. It's not going to get it.
It probably wants to update stupid PC.
Wants to update or something. I don't know. Who goes? Anyways, joining me tonight, suicidal
It's gonna
cat owner,
auto-update.
Robert Wyatt.
I told that cat, man, if that stupid cat gets up in that ceiling one more time, I'm just gonna tape over and just bury the damn body in
Wait.
there. It'll be straight out of Edgar Allan Poe.
Wait. So is the cat wanting to kill himself, or is the owner wanting to kill himself?
Both.
Both can be true at the same time.
There you go.
Just
You
saying.
support each other.
He's
You
gonna
support each other well.
he's gonna come home and it's gonna be like one of those shows where you hear the irk in the background, like what's that sound? And it's the gentle cat body swaying from the ceiling fan. Oh no, Pebbles, no! Why?
Not again.
I like that. I like that cat, but I'm so sick of it getting up into the space. And it's only been like 3 days since the plumbers redid all the water lines in the house, but it's still annoying.
Yeah. Well, and the other part
His
is
cat is also his plumber.
What's that?
cats. The cats.
Your cat's also the plumber, apparently.
The what's funny about
Yeah.
I bet you if you actually took notice of how many dead cats you see in a day, it's probably one or two. If you actually went around and look at, they're not. I would say they're not the most careful of creatures.
I
But-
killed a cat once. I
Well,
felt bad about it.
Oh, the
I
money.
like
Hey,
cats. I mean, between a dog and
Well-
a cat, I'll take a cat every single day of the week. I really
My
fucking like
car-
cats.
My car was parked outside running, and I walked inside to work, chatted with the boss for a minute. Then I walked outside and drove, and then felt a thump. It was the middle of the winter. Apparently, a kitten had crawled into my tire well because my car area was warm. So I ran the fuck over that cat, and it was super dead. And then I walked back in. I was like, "Hey, I just killed a cat. What do I do?" He's like, "You were gone for 5 seconds." And so we
I
threw
have
away.
a story that can actually beat that, believe it or not.
Oops.
When I was
Sorry, kitties.
when I was a little kid, we had a cat, and that cat had kittens, and they were young, and they would go off and they'd hide and play in the garage. And one day, my mom goes to mow the lawn. She pulls the lawnmower out, and it was one of those electric start jobbers. You can see where this is going.
This is a bad start to a story about dead kittens.
Uh-huh. She starts that thing up, you hear and blood just all over that garage floor.
Oh.
Like, oh shit.
I had a cat when I was 9. His name was Rascal. And we went up to live with my dad up in Jackpot, Nevada on this 88-acre ranch. And basically, Rascal went from an indoors cat to like living outside. And every once in a while, you'd be looking outside the window and you'd see him like pounce up into the air and like grab a bird and just bring it down. And like it was just killing
like
everything.
that. He became a domestic terrorist.
And then like 3 months later, my mom kidnapped us and took us back to California. And then my dad left and came back down to California. And like there was no like story of like what happened to Rascal. Like I think Rascal, like there was a stream and there's, but like I think Rascal just turned into a freaking mountain lion or something like that. That's how they work. Anyways, also joining me tonight for the
He
10th.
evolved.
He evolved. He went. What is it? Evolve in Pokemon, right? His second phase.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He became-
got enough experience points from killing all those Magikarps, and now he evolved into like
He's
you
a-
said, a mountain lion.
He's a Rascat. He went from Rascal to Rascat, and then the other one is just Rascacle or something like that. Anyways, for the 10th damn time, Uber is not a dating service. It's Jared Stepp.
What's the better way to get unknown people into your car for a certain amount of time and they can't leave? Name one.
And have them pay you.
Well,
Yeah,
even
it's a
even
win-win.
if you're willing to pay for the date, they still got to show up. You know. So I think you just start a bunch of fake accounts and then you just keep ordering different spots until you find some cute girl there, and then you drive over there, and then you're just like, hey, I'm here for the ride, and then you get the ride. Anyways,
I just like how back in the day we were all taught to not
get into
meet
cars with
anyone from the
strangers.
Yeah, to not meet anyone on the internet and to never get in a car with a stranger. And now we use the internet to get in cars with strangers. And it's an interesting world we live in.
Yeah, but nothing bad ever happens from meeting randos on the internet.
True.
Nothing.
That is a fact.
Went out shooting last week with Alex. You can hear about the USP stuff on the Patreon side. But in its final evolved form, bomb, bomb, bomb. The MP5K SBR finally came through, and this
I
Form
think
1
the
bad
stock
boy.
is longer than the gun itself.
It is almost.
Sure looks like it.
It's almost there. It goes to right below the foregrip.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it is one of these things, and I got this the Mo foregrip because you can kind of adjust the forward grip. You can have it a little bit farther back or a little bit farther forward. And one of the things with the MP5K is when you have the magazine come out because of the curved magazine, the foregrip can kind of get in the way. And when you run with something like one of the Magpul drums that's more offset, you can kind of take one of these grips and shave it down. And that way you can allow some space for the drum magazine, because the K and the full-size gun, for all purposes, they are really two different guns. They have a lot of some internal parts, but a lot of the major furniture, like the trigger housing, the stock is a 2-pin stock, pin right here. On the full size, it's one of the forward handrail is different. The cocking tube is shorter. There's a few parts that work, but for all intents and purposes, it is a different gun. But one of the things is I got this Mo forend because it has an M-lock on one side and an M-lock on the other side. And this side you can't really do anything with on the MP5, the left side, because it sits with the charging handle and everything.
Just put more of the foregrips. Have 3 of them on it.
It's the crucifix MP5. Everything gets away in the damn
power of Christ compels you
to be gone. You can bite your hand pretty good on this optics rail right here because it's very short. On the MP5, you get a lot more space. But on the MP5K, you're thinking, well, maybe I could put a light right here and it would just stick barely out and it'd be fine. Au contraire, friends, because you can't do that and fold the choke stock because the choke stock would interfere with whatever lights on the dang thing. And so maybe another solution would sit there and have to be, but you gotta, like, what this gun was made to do and what this stock is made to do is fold up, hide away, and deploy pretty rapidly and be able to use it. And the cool thing is, like, it is the perfect length for a stock. It's not too short, it's not too long. And then when you actually get your hand up on the forward grip and thumb over the top, I mean, it is quite possibly like one of the best stable shooting platforms there is. The stock is rock solid, great length to pull. When you actually have a decent stock, the grip feels really nice. And, the forward grip, I mean, having the gun this short and being able to pull it in, and then literally where your hand ends, the muzzle ends, it's one of the coolest little things. And I'm so happy that I got this dang thing SBR'd, because now it actually lives as it should as a MP5K. So it is super cool.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
that's way awesome.
You got the MRO on the top stacked up, and then just put 3 rounds right on top of each other at like 25 yards and a little head plate piece of steel, and it was like, there we go. 0 to ready to go. So it is a really cool gun. I do not believe that you need to SBR one of the full-size guns. There's plenty of nice stock and brace options that work pretty well for that thing. But the K, grabbing like the SP5K or like this AP5M or the PDW ones, they are on semi-automatic mode without a stock or with one of these short pistol braces. They're not what they're supposed to be. And then when you have it in the configuration where it's supposed to be, you're like, oh, I get it. This is freaking awesome. So I'm super happy with it.
That's awesome. It's a great gun. I mean, they're just fun. It's a vibe.
And it runs very well. And
Tom's whole life is a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's about.
Mm-hmm.
You know me.
I mean, you could do something that was like predictable, ease of shooting. No.
No,
Tom has just settled in with the Germans. He is all about that German lifestyle.
me and Mike was over here for the weekend, and we were sitting there and we were talking, he's more me than me at that age because we're actually discussing like double action trigger systems and how they work and how people like solve these different things. And he's like, "What gun do you think feels the best for you?" And I pulled out my BrigTac 92, and I was like, "This has the best trigger. I think this has the best grip. It is super soft shooting. It's fantastic." And he's just like, "Well, why don't you shoot it?" It's because Beretta has a hard time making good pistols. And it's just like, I could go get this thing dotted. Uh, Beretta's factory
Don't you
dots.
have one with the dot?
No, I bought a Beretta 92 with the dot, and the problem is that Beretta made the worst optics plate system possible. I mean, before I sold that thing, I had the Delta point mounted on it. It used hexagonal screws on top, so once they were tightened, you couldn't untighten them without having to use some sort of stripper
Nice.
because they're on there. And then the optics plate is not. It doesn't have like 2 or 3 screws on one side like the Langdon does, and then has another screw on the other side because they have that. They don't have a lot of height over the extractor. And so you got to kind of finagle it. Well, Beretta's solution was like, well, we'll put 2 screws in line with each other. And what happens is like, and they're very, very short screws because right underneath that section is the firing pin. And so you can go down there and you can literally see the firing pin through the screws. And so maybe you get a couple threads of engagement or bite on those original optics plates. And I was shooting that thing with a Delta Point Pro and full metal jacket ammunition, and I couldn't get the fucking thing to group 8 inches, 6 inches. And I was just like, what the hell is this? And so I was literally at the range, took the screw extractors out, stripped the screws out of the thing because I knew once I stripped the screws out, I was not putting the optic back on because I don't have any more screws. And Beretta couldn't tell me the thread pitch of it. Like I learned all these things about thread pitches trying to fight with this damn thing to get to work. And I took it, put it on the rest, put the iron sights on it, and shot a 3/4 inch group at 15 yards. And so I know that there are ways of getting like the Langdon optic plate is fantastic and it works. I mean, so
Well, that's the thing, Tommy. Why don't I mean Kenny Terry? I mean, he stopped shooting. He doesn't shoot anymore. So why don't you buy his 92X and then just send it to Langdon?
I thought one of you guys had a Langdon Beretta.
I do.
Robert has a Langdon Beretta.
With the dot?
It's a Langdon dot.
So
Yeah. I actually sent it off to get ported. Oh, I guess a month ago now.
If I was going to do the Beretta thing, I would get a standard 92X or an old school 92FS, send that to Langdon and have him cut it, mill it, and put a dot on it. And that would be great. But the one thing too, which you deal with Beretta is Beretta's quality control on some of the stuff. I bet all the stuff
because they're Italian and they only work on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and half days on Thursdays.
Yeah, but like, here's this gun. This gun works all the time. This gun shoots all the time. It's already cut by Langdon and it's well made and it works. And I don't have to futz around with it.
Because the Germans are actually generally good at winning things like wars until the Americans get involved.
The Norm Macdonald joke. They took on the world twice and almost won twice. So just remember. So like
it's
this,
not outside the realm of possibility.
It's not. No, it's. But like messing around and like, there's many times that I took the Beretta apart and found broken shit in the Beretta, and it still works, and it's still my favorite pistol in a lot of ways. But are there aluminum frame 9mm guns that you can get a dot on that's better? Yeah, and Beretta, the PX4 I would probably take over another 92. It's just one of those things where it's just one of those things.
Kino Sai, I mean, like he's running the PX4, and I mean with all the everything that Langdon's done to him and stuff like that, and he will tell you from his opinion that PX4 is the finest red dot firearm on the market, and he's really big in with wanting to like those things because there's a vibe to it. But I mean, he's a pretty damn good shooter, and his opinion means a lot.
I mean, the PX4, I had that for years and shot that for years, and they're great.
Yeah.
Also, it's just
Yeah, the worst thing that you ever had to deal with it, really, Tommy, was at the time. Well, I mean, at the
there was
time when you were shooting the PX4, there was really no aftermarket for it, and you were stuck using those really shitty Trijicon sights, if I remember correctly,
Yep.
that are great if you're going to shoot somebody in the face, like inside of a phone booth. But as soon as you tried to get any precision, like when we went down and shot Barry's Still Open, and you just struggle bust with those big fat old sucky
Yep.
sights, yeah, it sucked.
it's the one thing that gun always like. Beretta, to their credit, they had a competition trigger kit that you could drop into it. It has the same sear and the same hammer, and so if you got a really good sear hammer combination in a 92, you could put it in a PX4 and it would run, and you could actually use your PX4 as a jig because it was much easier to take apart and reassemble. So you could gunsmith on the PX4 than put those parts in the 92. I mean, it really worked out well. It didn't have good sights, and now, you know, Langdon has the new GSD and it's all ready to go. I like Langdon's work. Langdon does a good job with the work and the customer service fantastic. I do not think any one of those pistols is worth $2,000.
No.
This is a $600 pistol with $300 of work on it. If I was to buy this gun directly from Langdon, without
They
the
really
trigger
charge
parts,
that much?
it's like 1,400.
Well, that's, I mean, going further, Tommy, I mean, like right now you can buy a Shadow 2 for $900.
Mm-hmm.
Give Josh Dobson $60 to have him mill the slide to put an SRO or whatever you want on there, and you have arguably, I mean, a really fantastic firearm.
Yep.
Now I'm going to complain about it in just a second, but still, there's a lot of great options in the market right now. And that honestly, it's just, we just live at a really damn good time where we don't have to be like, because like when we first started, it's like, well, there's Glock and there's Glock. And now it's like, okay, the world's your oyster. You got Canics, Glocks, M&Ps. I mean, just everything out there. There's a lot of fantastic firearms that people can just pick up and they can just run them.
Yeah, and so from Langdon right now, if I was to get a P30L, leave the stock trigger, they make you get a trigger job, LTD trigger job, but not the fancy one, and then had an RMR plate put on it, $1,400.
What's the difference between What's the difference between a trigger job and a fancy trigger job?
So like they have like the nickel coated parts, so they'll take like the sears and the hammers,
NPM or whatever that junk is?
and they'll do that stuff and have that. So if you have like the stock trigger job that Langdon makes you take, and you get a P30L, you cut it for a plate, $1,400. I know I can get a P30L right now.
Just the cut and the plate?
The cut is $325. So like if I go on Locked and Loaded and go buy a P30L, I could go buy a P30L LEM for $620, send it to Langdon with shipping and return and everything like that. It's another $380, so I'm $1,000, and now I have a P30. There's an extra $400 in there. Like, granted, they're doing this thing, they're sourcing it for you. You can just buy the gun and have it shipped straight to you. There's
certainly something to be said for Langdon's their optic system. I mean, as opposed to what Beretta did. I hate. Go ahead.
No, it's just I think they do it that way. It's just because there's a lot of people nowadays who are getting into this hobby, and to be frank, just don't give a rat's ass about money, and it's wild. And Tom Nelson and Steve Koski are not those people, so they're going to be the ones who source their own guns, send it in, and even that stretching it because $400 for an optics plate cut is crazy. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like you were saying, it is a good plate system. It is what you want. If it's what you want, then do it.
No, it's phenomenal.
I just think it's nuts how there are people now getting into this hobby that are just dropping so much absurd amounts of money, and they've never even shot a match, and they're buying Infinities. They're buying all this crazy shit. They're buying all these Atlases, these Staccatos. I mean, last USPSA match I went to, There are all sorts of people there that I don't think I've ever seen before, and they all had staccatos. You had a couple guys with atlases that I'm like, I've never even seen you.
Well, what do you expect
And
though?
it's just
The with YouTube and so many gun tubers putting out quality hell, if anything, let's just blame Dave Blanton and the Humble Marksman. He's done
no.
more for like promoting really nice firearms to people than pretty much anybody out there on the entire like internet world. And so,
So
yeah.
I get that, but what's weird to me is everybody talks about how shitty the economy is doing and how shitty everything is and how no one has any money, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, people are wasting, because that's what it is in my opinion. People are wasting so much money on these secondary, tertiary hobbies that they'll come and flash in for a month and then leave. And it's just wild to me that
Well,
supposedly the economy is so bad, but all these people have so much disposable income. It's just weird. That's
Well,
all.
the one
like the economy could be really shitty in the world, but women are still going to go buy makeup and firearms. Whether you like it or not, they're going to hold their value better than just about any other hobby out there. You buy a pair of golf clubs in there, and you're going to sell those golf clubs at a huge loss. An Infinity is still going to go for Infinity money no matter what you do. It's one of the nicest things. I've got a ton of firearms that are worth more now than when I first bought them. That is one advantage. But you're right. It is very strange to see people show up to the new shooter match and they have more expensive kit on their belt than I do.
well
And
even
I'm like,
even
damn.
even the basic guns aren't even basic. When's the last time you saw like a
Right.
stock something
Yeah.
come in? It's like this guy's got a P320. Oh look, he's got a Brower frame. He's got a Romeo 3. Like how often have you shot that? Oh, I got it like 3 weeks ago, and it's just like, all right,
That seems to be that seems to there's nobody in between at the new shooter. It's either they have basic bitch nothing, like this is my 320 macro or whatever they call it,
yeah.
Yeah.
or this is my
They got
Infinity.
Uncle Mike's.
Yeah. It's kind of
weird.
funny how that is, but it very rarely are you seeing people that are right in the middle of that. Well, this is my Shadow 2, and I've gone through and I've done all these tricked out things. It happens, but it's certainly two ends of the spectrum.
Yep. Well, that's
Yeah, it's just odd right now.
Sure.
yeah. I think the
Well,
one guys
I
who are
blame the
really making
Democrats
out
for that, honestly.
is the 2011 guys, the guys hawking $3,000, $4,000 2011s. It's like goodness gracious, they are freaking raking it
Mhm.
in. And not to say that something like a staccato P or something like that isn't worth $3,000. Like sure, probably is. With the parts and stuff that they're putting into it, and they seem to staccato seem to run. They seem to be working. It's just wow, that's a lot of freaking money to be putting into something like that. The idea of people starting out kind of like we started out with some third generation Glock, and some Dawsons and
Mhm.
the lone wolf trigger job that we've put into it. That's the guys are going.
That day's gone.
Yep, that day's gone. But every once in a
But
while, it's still fun to see somebody like Jared or Robert come in there with like some old gun, and Jared shooting his duty gun, and it's just like, all right, well, it's still 98% of last week's score. So
well, there's kind of it's that inverted U curve, right? Where you first start out and the gun doesn't matter. But then as you get to the top of that thing, oh, the gun, the equipment, the
yep,
holster, whatever, it's everything in the world. And then as you kind of come back down on the other side of that, you're like, actually, yeah, most of this stuff doesn't matter. There's a certain skill set. And once the firearm or whatever it is has reached that certain level of proficiency, then it's just
Right.
like if it works, it works.
yep,
I don't need to have the raciest, fastest holster or gun or whatever. I just need a shitload of skill and to actually go out and practice it. But admittedly, nobody wants to do that. We all want to buy the latest, greatest firearm because it's cool and it's sexy. That's just the way we all are.
Mhm.
yep.
So
And the older I
anyway.
get, the more stock I want. Anyways, what'd you guys do past couple weeks, Robert?
Last week I actually was back in Pennsylvania. Our office decided to go to visit the home, the Falling Water home, is the Kaufman House by famous American architect Frank Lloyd Wright. It was something kind of always wanted to do, so the entire office all went out there. That was really a ton of fun. It's totally not gun related, but
That's smart. You made that a business expense. Look at you, Robert.
ding.
Good man.
But we went and did that. But then, so a couple things interesting. Not last week, but the week before that, I shot a match, and I had just gotten this Barstow barrel back from Patriot Defense. I'd sent them off to have it ream, and I had a bunch of malfunctions in the mash and didn't think too much of it. I was like, well, maybe it's this, that, or the other. So I came home and I changed the extractor, and then went on our trip, came back, and I shot the indoor match. It had the same problems where the spent case would just fail to extract, and I could not figure it out. And fortunately, there was a couple guys there, and one of them at the match that had Shadow 2, and like, okay, can we put my ammo in your gun? Let's eliminate that one.
Yep.
And ran flawlessly. And he's like, well, what if you shoot my ammo through your Shadow 2, Robert? And I'm like, okay. So he threw his in. He's like, it's 147 grain. And I'm like, that's fine. Pull the trigger on the first one, it fails to extract. And I'm like, okay, that's just messed up. And so we tried a couple different types of ammo, factory ammo. It didn't matter. It just kept causing this problem. And basically, it's to the point where, and I don't know why it would be. I can't understand why it would happen, but there's something about the way that they reamed that barrel out that it's now failing to consistently extract cases after they've been fired, because it's never a loaded round, right? It's always been fired. And for a
So
minute,
if you hand cycle it, it will take out.
Goes in just fine.
Goes in just fine and
Everything-
extracts out. Hand extracts out.
Just come, yeah, perfectly, not a problem in the world. And that's actually why I thought it was the extractor. And for a minute there, I was like, oh geez, am I doing that stupid thing where I'm putting my thumb in front of the ejection port? And so I was like, okay, well, so I went back out, I went out to the range and I shot right-handed, so that, because then it can't really get in the way. And still does it. And so finally, Friday, or no, it was Thursday, I took and I just put a different barrel, one of my other CZ barrels, into that gun, took it out to range, shot 300 rounds through it, no problems, not one bit. I took it out last night, same thing, shot another 300 rounds, never had a problem in the world. The only consistency on why the gun is failing is that barrel, and the only thing that's changed since because I shot it at Area 1 and it was completely flawless throughout that match. The only thing that's changed is I had the barrel reamed out, and I don't know why that would be an issue, but what else could it be, right? I mean, it just makes no sense.
Unless it's causing it to if it's a little oversized, I don't know if it's like flash sticking or something. Because I've seen chambers before where if it's a bad finish on the chamber, they can get stuck in the chamber.
Yeah.
And that way the extractor's just not strong enough to pull it
yank it
out. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either, honestly.
Scott
But
goes.
yeah, it must. But I've got what is it, a honing compound.
You have
one of my honing brush.
You have the original barrel, right, for it, because this is another barrel that put in. So you could just put the regular
the
barrel.
C23 927. Yeah, I have that barrel.
Okay.
I would. So I put that in there and it runs. So I'm gonna call up Patriot Defense and just ask them. I'm not trying to say you guys suck or anything like that, because it's such a weird problem. I don't know why that would happen. It's just weird.
Well, I think you can hold both of those up to the light and take a good look in them and see what might be causing. And the other part is too, it's put a round in, drop it under full, put a round into the chamber or whatever, or on top of the magazine, drop it completely in with full battery, and then extract the round and see what the round looks like. Or what you could also do is go out there, go someplace, load the round, fire a couple of the rounds, collect the brass, and then look what the brass looks like. And if you can trap some of the ammunition too, that probably wouldn't be that bad of an idea also. Because if it's really chattered up, you're going to see as the brass expands, it's going to expand to the area that it has on it. And then that might tell you where if there's burrs or something like that in similar parts of the ammunition that is causing the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe color a piece of brass with a Sharpie.
Oh.
See if it.
Yeah. I never thought of that. That's
Yeah,
a good idea.
See if it's scratching it up.
There's a chemical called dichem, DYCEM or KEM, something like that. Anyways, and that's exactly what it's meant for. You color something with it or a part. Dichem. Pride Month, everybody. Anyways,
June boys, dike them up.
and so if you're
And
looking at a part and it has to rub on another part, and like you have a high spot or something like that, the dichem will where the high spot is, so you can find exactly where it'd be happening.
sure.
So you could like clock, you could mark like what would you call like up on the back of the brass and load it in that orientation, so up is the proper spot, and so that way you can actually clock where the burr or something like that is happening on the bullet.
Interesting.
So
And then last night when I was out there practicing, I was shooting one of my other guns, and this is the first time since 2017 I actually broke a slide stop on a CZ. That's pretty unusual. And so
look at you, you're just breaking all your shit this week.
right
What's
before
going on?
National. Well, Nationals is coming up, so I got to break all my
When is
crap before.
Nationals?
Next Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And
so the
that'll
mate
be fun. I'll fly out on Wednesday.
So the major match gun now needs to have a barrel correction. Did you break the slide stop on the major match gun?
No, I broke it on the I call it the Warhorse, but I broke it on this one. Just it's the one that I shoot in my normal matches.
Let's just go ahead and put like a new trigger spring in it. Let's put a new extractor. Let's just get the main guy set.
It's this gun's so I put a new one in just to hold it back together, but I'm actually going to take this all apart tonight and put a new TRS in it. Really, the things that you kind of have to replace, that you religiously have to replace, besides the recoil and the hammer springs, is just replace the trigger turn spring and then the slide stop.
Yeah,
and you'll be just fine. But I'll do that and then I'll take this with me. I'm probably shooting this gun. I like the major match gun, but there's just enough like weirdness right now that I'm like, I don't want to.
That was going to be my next question. Like, what gun are you going to shoot then?
I'm going to shoot this one, just the one that I am going to replace everything on, just because I confidence, right? It's just if you're confident, things going to work. It means something.
Yep.
Confidence is huge in this game.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what I'm going to shoot. But yeah, so that's fun. It'll be a fun week. There's a lot of fun people on the squad, so I think that'll.
Are you still on the super squad, or did they change that? I remember for a minute your squad was the super squad, right?
Well, JJ Rakaz is on that squad. There's a lot of superstar talent on that squad, and me. It's kind of
nice.
That. I mean, like,
are you like the caddy? Are you the Make-A-Wish that they allowed to get in with them?
I am seriously the Make-A-Wish one on this thing.
I just want to shave your head.
Well, I would say
I'm so excited to be here.
You're one bad lunch away, and you not eating the bad lunch for being the best shooter on that squad. Like if everyone just gets absolutely gut attacked, you'll be all right. You'll do fine.
I don't know. It's just gonna be fun. John Batista is doing a really cool thing where he has a GoPro and he's bringing this like a tripod with a long extension, so he basically can get this. It's kind of this top-down view. What do you call, almost a third-person kind of angle, top-down.
Oh, right.
You saw in some of his videos that have been floating around on the Instagrams. It's pretty cool. So he's going to actually do that for everybody that shoots on our squad.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it should be a lot of fun. That's the cool thing. Like right now, between Dave Riddle and Jay, what they did at Area 8 with the drones and all the footage and stuff that was done at Area 8. Yeah, I'm
surprised there's not more drone footage out there.
all the drones are going to Ukraine right
Ukraine.
now, but
Yeah.
no, it's the funniest thing that all of the really cool things that are happening in USPSA as far as like competitor experience, watching the competitors, it's not coming from USPSA. It's coming from people like other people doing things.
Fine.
And it's like, it's the weirdest thing. And I don't want to like throw shade or cast shade or on, but I mean, you have like the director of media, marketing, and events who really should be kind of like leading this, who isn't. Why is Jake Martins, who arguably should be the guy who's really pushing a lot of these really cool things,
Um,
um, everybody else is doing it. And again, I'm not trying to throw shade, really. It's a legitimate question from me.
I would say the content that can be generated by everyone else going to the matches and everyone kind of doing their own thing does more for the sport than what any media director could do. Like what Hunter
Yeah.
Constantine does in like 2 or 3 months is way more than what Jake Martins can possibly do for a while. Like there is
Yeah,
like and there's
maybe,
like
right?
there's like the T-Rex arm stuff that's they're now putting out about USPSA and getting good at competitions and moving that forward. It's just like I like keep the magazine going for the boomers and for everybody else who kind of wants that stuff, but like
That's the hard thing is
it's like
we really need to change the bylaws to say that we don't need a magazine anymore, because when USPSA was founded, I mean,
It's a
people
lot
actually
of
read
money.
magazines.
yeah. Well, the other part of it too, it's like, well, how often do you go to the brand to watch stuff about their gun? Like, I kind of want to know what it's made of,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to see like what's your guys' price, and then I'm going to go to like my top 5 favorite people online and figure out exactly the small, minute details of this thing before I throw the money on. Like, I'm the worst places for the information is always from the product, and they're generally not the best at producing it and doing putting it out there, because if they were the best at doing it, they'd be doing it on their own and making their own money for it, not doing it for somebody else.
Right. Right. No, it's cool. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward. I get to shoot with Kevin and Kevin, John, and so that always makes for a fun time. It was really
Ooh, all
funny
three
on
you guys are on the super squad. That's fun.
right. Get to be with like the cheese eating surrender monkey and JJ. It's gonna be good. No, they
Yeah.
taught who's it? Jeff on the Not Another Shooting Show. They talked about it's kind of interesting being on, and we talked about it on our show a lot. But I have so much more fun on squads that aren't necessarily the super squad, like the M's and the GMs. I have more fun with like the B's and the C's, and it's the craziest
It's
thing. But
definitely way easier to relax. Not every not
yeah,
there
everybody's
there's not a bunch of attention going like, gosh damn it, like I need to go like 18 tenths of a second faster on this, and gosh damn it, another delta. And then it's just like somebody's throwing a fit about a delta, then you're throwing a fit about a delta, and then when you're on the B and the C squad, it's like, God, dude, you guys missed the shit out of that target. I only had a delta.
I know we're all laughing about it. It's funny. It's
Yeah.
good times. But it'll be good.
The
It's gonna be a
best
lot of fun.
the best I've ever shot was hanging out with some friends who literally it was I don't want to call it like a hype team, but it was just hanging out with the boys at the range. And yeah, it was a big match, but it was a lot of fun because we were just bullshitting, making fun of each other, just having fun, and we didn't care. And it was just like, yeah, let's just shoot. And after every time everybody shot, we're like, dude, that was awesome, that was great, and everybody shot really well. The least fun I've ever had shooting was a match with a bunch of super squad people because I just felt like I was shit. And I just felt like, oh man, my 14-second one was ass because blah 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 just did it in a 12-second run, and this, and I just slowly lost that confidence we were talking about earlier, while
Yeah.
the other time was all about building confidence. So I think there's a lot of truth there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, like
Sure.
my favorite
But
matches are when I get
that
to shoot
also
with
shows
you and
my
Colby and
mental game.
Andy.
Right. It shows my mental game isn't up to snuff.
Sure, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's true. You should be able to perform at a high level no matter what you do. That's fine. Great. But I know who I am.
But
I know where I am
also,
in life, and I'm not going to take home the Mary Kay pink Cadillac. I'm just not. And damn it if I don't have a great time shooting with my friends, and I actually shoot a lot better. even Andrea said, like, when I'm driving home from matches, she's like, "Oh, it sounds like you had a fun day." You know what? I actually did. She's like, how'd you
And you
perform? I
didn't
performed
check
okay.
practice score competitor every single time.
Mhm.
You weren't worried about, okay, well, blah, 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 shot this stage in 18 seconds. I think I can do it in 16 if I push here. If I push here, I got to do this. And then in the middle of the stage while you're shooting, you have a mic on the steel and you have to do a reshoot. And then now you know that you're off pace and now it's terrible and
Yep.
everything's awful, blah, blah, blah. And then you pull up practice score competitor
And then
immediately
you still
afterwards and
look.
you're like, oh, I messed this up.
You still look, and you're just like, what the hell is it? Why? Why is it? Just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the simpler
And then
times
that's just
before we got the email, and we were just guessing most of the time. Like you had to be on the squad to kind of
Oh
get an idea.
God, that's the other thing I did this week. So last week at the match,
Oh,
um,
how
the
the iPads
scoring
all
thing.
died?
Holy Hannah! So that was fun because last week at the match, I'm still back in Pennsylvania, and I get a phone call from match director, and they're like, we have a problem. I'm like, what? It's like, well, there's two sets of the stages. 1 through 6 is the stages, and then 7 through 12 is another set of the stage. Well, how they get like duplicated, we don't know. Okay, well, let's just figure what happened. Let's just try and figure it out on the back end. And so get to the end of the match Saturday, I get this text like, we're in trouble. The scores are all effed. I'm like, okie dokie. And so I get home, and Monday, match director brings over the pads, and I'm looking at them, and sure enough, like I think it was 4 of the squads had entered their scores on like the 7 through 12, and then the rest had put them all on 1 through 6, and then, oh, by the way, halfway through the match, one of the squads went and dunked their they put their iPad into one of the coolers because it was a hot day, and so they were trying to keep them cool off, and it had accidentally fallen down and gotten into the
The
ice
water.
water, and
Solid.
so
It needed to get baptized.
it really did. The
It turned
baptism didn't
8.
work because it did not come back after 3 days. So
Shit.
At least we know it's
there
going to
goes your
heaven.
gods. But and so like I spent from Monday until Thursday basically going through and trying to put all of the scores into the right categories and pulling people out of 7 through 12 and getting them into and doing all this reassigning thing. And it was a giant pain in the ass. And then it's like, okay, well, I still don't have half the scores. And so fortunately we were doing online scoring. So I was able to get into competitor and take all that data, then put it back into the regular thing. And Thursday night at like 11 o'clock, I got it all finished up, and it was like, and I uploaded a practice score, sent a message to the match director, and like, scores are done. Yeah, let's never do that again. That sucked.
Yuff.
Sounds fantastic.
So the
Jared,
lesson here, kids, is don't be the stats guy.
no vacation is a vacation. Jared, do you have anything you want to bring up before we move on?
Oh, I did some shooting stuff this week. I helped teach a red dot class, and then I helped teach a 1911 class at work, and it was kind of just funny because the red dot class, I feel bad, but like the lead instructor for it, he'd only done it a handful of times, and he had told me that he's like, well, I'm really curious about your opinion on like a bunch of this stuff, like how would you do this, how would you do this, and I'm like, okay, I'll tell you. And so during the class I was noticing some issues with just fundamentals. And so in my opinion, a red dot class really is just a recoil management class, because if you can correctly shoot a firearm, you should be able to find your red dot. But if you can't correctly shoot a firearm, if you have bad fundamentals, obviously you're not going to be able to find your dot. You're not going to be able to find it after the first shot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I basically did a little recoil management class there, and that was fun. That went well. The guys seemed to like that, and it was funny because the guys were joking around. They're like, "I thought you were supposed to be the assistant instructor." I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just doing shit, and this is why I'm here, I guess. And then there was another class, and for the 1911 class, the primary instructor there, I don't know, the way he runs a 1911, he likes to have his thumb on the safety when he shoots, and then when he's done shooting, he puts the safety on by applying upward pressure, and then he rests his thumb on the safety after that. So my only issue with that is you can't really know for sure if your safety is on if you're resting your thumb on top of the safety, especially during a movement position. So if you run from spot A to spot B, you're going to pump your arms like this, and part of moving your hands like that is you have a natural tendency to push downward on your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that multiple times in the class where guys, when they ran from spot A to B with their hand, the way he's describing it, with his thumb, with the thumb pressed against the safety, and they moved, they would turn the safety off as they ran, which is suboptimal. So I saw a couple issues with that. And so I brought it up towards the end of the class where I'm like, hey guys, I know this is what you've been being taught and there's reasons for it. And I'm sure you've already been taught that. But how I recommend it is I either do positive pressure down or positive pressure up. It's one or the other. So if I'm moving, I'm having positive pressure up on my safety. I'm actually pushing upwards on my safety while I'm moving around with a 1911.
From the bottom of it, like trying to push it on?
So correct. So you're pushing it on. So that way you know that the safety's on, right? Versus if you're shooting it, you're positive pressure down on the safety, so you know that the safety is off. The whole idea, it's kind of like how I run an AR, is I always know the condition of my firearm, no matter what's happening.
Because you're not losing contact
so
with
I kind of
the
explained
device.
I'm not losing contact. I don't like mid gaps. I don't like, okay, well, turn the safety on, but then rest your thumb on top of it, because you could accidentally turn it off. And we saw it happen multiple times where guys were resting their thumbs on top of the safety and they go to holster their gun, and guess what happened? They accidentally turned off the safety because they were resting their thumb on top of it, and trying to scoot it into the duty holster made them accidentally turn it off because they were already applying just light downward pressure on it. So I kind of explained why I do it my way, and some of the students were like, oh, that makes way more sense. And then the primary instructor got super pissed at me. And he was like, you're undermining my class. This isn't your class. You what this is a super shitty thing to do. And I was like, oh,
well, you're a super shitty instructor. No, just kidding.
No, I didn't say that. But I was kind of just like, well, what do you expect me to do, man? Like, you're teaching something that in my opinion is a bad option. And if I was teaching, and this isn't like a class to normies or whatever, this is a class to cops who are expected to carry this weapon on duty.
These are like 2011s as well,
this
right?
This is important.
2011s,
yeah,
1911s.
They're all staccatos. There were no 1911s.
No one's carrying an 8-shot.
That actually was my question. I'm like, who the hell's still shooting a 1911?
No one's got a 1911 with a shirt that says they all fall to ball on it, you know?
Right. So it was just kind of an interesting experience, and I felt bad, but also I was like, should I feel bad? I don't think so, because as an instructor, someone else showing a different method during your class, you should be able to, one, either defend your method, or two, defend their method, or like you should be able to show why your method is better. If you say that my method is better for XYZ, then your students should listen and say, okay, well, why do you think the option 2 is better? Option 2 says, well, I think it's ABC. And if all the students say, well, I think that second method, the ABC, is better, and that makes more sense to me, perhaps option 1 is not really that great.
Right. Well, what is it, Tommy? I can't remember who says this, but it's like they talk about it like with free speech. You know, like there should always be free speech, because a good idea in the kind of the free speech,
a good idea defends itself. Yeah, like there's the only argument, a good argument or being correct is its own defense. And so like you like no one sits there can get there. Like the people who generally do not like discussions about certain things are people who don't like to defend their ideas or something like that. But like if you had a reason not to apply upward pressure on a safety to make sure that you knew that it was unsafe position, like please inform us why to do that. Like on a USP or something like this, if this was like a USP class, do I want to constantly put downward pressure on the USP safety? No, because it actually, once it goes down past fire, it activates the decocker mode. And so you would want to have, like, once that bad boy is off, please find another place for your thumb that is not on the down of that safety. But on 1911, downward pressure is great. Like the one thing that 1911 needs, it needs pressure on the grip safety. Unless that thing's been deactivated for some god forsaken reason, because you don't want to grip the gun properly at all times. And then downward pressure on the safety, and then upward pressure on it. It's fine. Like the one thing too, it's like if you can't generate enough force with your hand or the size of the safeties, like feel free to get one of the other 819 safeties on that gun to sit there and apply the pressure up. But no,
So
Yeah. This is
now I
one of
gotta
the things.
see the pushback from that next week. We'll see if I get in trouble for it, but I don't know.
Well, this is one of the
I
things I
also
like
got
about. Oh, good.
I got a new gun, the Voodoo Gunworks Priest, and I got that and been playing with that. Apparently, the original guns, they kind of had one set of ideas for them, and recently, in I think the past 6 months or 8 months or something, the head gunsmith at Voodoo has gone to the house of Eddie Garcia and learned how to fit barrels and stuff from Eddie. And so now all the new Voodoos are allegedly a lot more tight and like very, very well done, according to some people that I've talked to. And this new Voodoo that I got it's crazy tight. Like the lockup on that 2011 barrel is just like I've played with a handful of Eddie guns, and the lockup's incredibly tight. The lockup on this gun, like it's hard to actually do a press check because it is so damn tight. So it's kind of interesting, and
you'll have to kind of
been
lap
good,
it
though.
and shoot it, break it in with firing.
Yeah, I guess.
Cool.
But yeah, new Voodoo's nice. Very good gun.
Awesome. Well, if you need to hang that Voodoo on something because you're into that $3,000, $4,000 pistol lifestyle, even if you're into
Yeah.
even if you're into the Yeet cannon, the best place to get a belt's Dominate Defense. Check them out. Use promo code PARA10. Save 10% off your belt. Concealment belts, duty belts, and the Mach 1 belt, the best belt for competition there is out there, period. Check them out. Dominate Defense, use promo code PARA10, save 10% off. You can also check out W74 Guide Rods, Kevin Neisett's little place. Get that heavy tungsten. Put that weight where you need it. Get the batteries if you want. You're like, I got an MMP. I can't do anything. It's like, oh, baby, you can still put tungsten weights in your flashlight and get a tungsten guide rod and get that bad boy into the 30 ounces range and play with it. Even some guys can get it into the 45. So check that stuff out. Use promo code PARA10, and also get your springs, get your followers, not W74, Rune Tactical. Use the same promo code, and you can get a +1 in the gun. So 23 becomes 24. You're 22 guys, like I have some 22 round magazines. I get 23 with the Rune Tactical followers. Check them out. Use the same promo code, save 10% off. Also, check out Telegram. It's a messaging app. It's encrypted, and you can join the little PARAcast chat, and you can find out what other people like to do with their encrypted conversations. Hopefully some delightful
World
pictures
War
to you.
II footage. Oh wait, never mind.
World War II footage. Oh, all the footage. Check it out.
All the footage.
Anything you want. It's on Telegram. Telegram, search PARAcast, find us, ask us questions like these people are doing now.
From Brett, our local match director set a meeting to talk about switching to PCSL. Any tips for setting up matches in practice score? Are there any other comments about PCSL? I actually tried to look. I have no idea how to set it up in PCSL. I would send a message to Max Leograndis, though.
Wouldn't it just be the same?
Well, it's not. It's as opposed to a USPSA match. You'd probably realistically, because it's hit factor. So I would actually set it up as a hit factor match.
Oh, did they not just have a format where you can press PCSL in the very beginning?
If they do, I'm not seeing it. I mean, heck, I mean, I can talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds, and I'll do a quick look, but I'm not sure. And so, PCSL is cool. I mean, I think people should do it if they like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. That sounds bad, but if it was me personally, I would rather attend a USPSA non-affiliated match. So like a hit factor match run under USPSA rules, I would attend that rather than a PCSL handgun.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the new match thing. I really like PCSL as a 2-gun thing, a 2-gun, 3-gun. I love that format. I'm pretty I'm pretty hard into the idea of USPSA. I very much dislike the idea of these hit factor matches, even though all the Area 3 boys are running these hit factor matches, which are, just like USPSA, but not really, sort of. And
But you're
they
not
have,
paying money to the man.
you're not, yeah. Screw you, USPSA. You're not getting our $200. I don't know. No, it's a bigger deal than that. And I'm not trying to take away from that.
She's
I
like,
totally understand that.
they're not calling it USPSA, but you know it's exactly like USPSA. Sometimes the Malto meal tastes better. You know why it tastes better? Because it's fucking 50% cheaper. That's what's happening with them. And so like, like if I go shoot a hit factor match and I win a hit factor match against guys that I know what their classifications were in USPSA, I know that I'll dovetail in. So believe me, plenty of people bought Mega Blocks for their kids for Christmas, and those kids play with the Mega Blocks and put them in with their Legos, and eventually they can come together if they want. But I know if I shot an outlaw match, I know where it would come in as far as USPSA with the same people I'm shooting with every week and all that stuff and how that would dovetail. And so I love USPSA. I'm a lifetime member. I'm happy that I have that lifetime membership, especially that the board has cleaned up a lot of its problems, and people who enjoy hot dogs are not gonna be coming back. And so there's a lot of good things, and there's not a lot of USPSA drama right
Corn
now.
Cob's gone too.
Yeah. And so like Area 3, like hopefully they get their the justice that they want, and they get their they join the fold back again and all that jazz. But if they don't, like it
honestly, I'm
it's
so
not
tired
their
of most of it.
Yeah, but
it's like if the board if they can just stop playing this game of let's remove the president, let's ban this guy, let's kick this guy out, but oh, by the way, we're going to let this guy do the same thing. Just if the board does nothing more than just takes a step back and just calms the frick down for a little while and just lets people just kind of like settle out, I think you'll start to see the Area 3 people start to come back. You'll see a lot of the things that are upsetting people. It'll all calm down because, I mean, it really is this idea that like most of the things are starting to get better. Mm-hmm. If the board can just stop stepping on their own junk, it'll be cool and we'll all have fun.
Yep.
And that's all we ask. Just get us through, get us 1 year without like stupid drama, and I think we'll be chill.
Well, I think the people at the good people of Area 3 have definitely let USPSA know that they can lose entire areas.
Yeah,
with poor behavior.
And too right for them. I mean, honestly, people get to vote. This is what, Jared, like, the economy is what it is. People are buying really expensive guns, but at the end of the day, people are still voting with their wallets. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. Yep. Otherwise, I'm going to show up to my Slipsa match and be happy for the most part until my gun doesn't run.
Until the iPads break.
Until the iPads break.
Ritual suicide in the water.
And then I'll price you out a lovely P30 with a dot, and you can have everything on that for the 1400.
There was a couple nights this week working on those things that I was really, really wanting just to call the match director and be like, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. It's not going to happen.
Just assign score by how people felt about the shooting.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, there are people that they treat that classifier like it is God, Jesus Christ, and all the apostles rolled into one. And if we can't get that uploaded to USPSA so that I can move my percentage 0.3%, then the world is ending. And that actually, funny enough, that's actually what I told the match directors. Like, I'll get your classifiers back. Anything else is just gonna be icing on the cake.
Yep.
Because people care about the classifier. That matters to them. I don't care anymore. I just don't. I mean, I'm a crappy shooter, so what's it matter? But it is what it is. From Nate Osborne, Robert breaking part shouldn't even bear mention. Sort of expected. If a week passes when he breaks nothing, now that's noticeable.
Oh, I
hate the fact that you're right about that.
Well, if he breaks parts and things that aren't a CZ, but a CZ and Robert Wyatt together, that's what's literally keeping the economy rolling.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Make America great. No, Actually, never mind. I don't like that guy. Let's see. Alex Went. When you started loading for USPSA, did you try to walk the fine line of barely making power factor and reliability? If yes, why? If no, why?
I could barely make my ammo run consistently for anything with the Lee Loadmaster. Now,
Yeah, I mean,
since
Tommy was
2018,
walking the line of squibbing.
since
I couldn't
2018,
even make ammunition. What are you guys doing? You guys are getting paid?
I yeah, since 2018, like I was just trying to make stuff that was accurate and then like consistent, but that lead loadmaster was paying about since I ever got the 650. The main thing is like I want an accurate round, and I want that round no matter what gun I put it into to be like 135 power factor. So generally like 115 grain or 124 grain bullet. You know, 4.5 grains a tight group, or 4.6 with 115 grain, or 4.3 with like a 124 grain, and let it go. And it runs, it's accurate, and it's going to cycle everything appropriately and properly, especially with the factory guide rod. Like, it just feels fine. So that's what I would prefer to do.
I've seen people start out, and I remember the funniest thing. Frank Shu, when he very first started reloading, he was so excited because he showed me his chronograph readings, and he had it like 126. It was like 126.1. He's like,
boy.
do you think I should make it slower, or like get it down to 125? And I'm like, no, that's a bad idea. Why? Because it will hurt you.
Well, you're playing a game of 10 degrees difference in temperature. It's like,
Yeah.
congratulations, it's 53 today, not 85 when you chrono this shit.
Yeah, I mean, like the 115s are the first ones that I've ever, in a long time, that I've ever actually not just had them running stupid hot. And these ones are like 133, I think is what they're coming in at, and they seem to run the gun pretty well. So I like them for that. I got the load from somebody else, and it just ran, so I just kind of kept it. But I've had them running. I've had bullets running all the way from 130 up to 154 power factor out of my Shadow 2. I don't know. At the end of the day, if all you're ever gonna do is shoot locals, go ham. I don't care what you do. Yeah. But
yeah, honestly, that's the big thing. Is it really only comes into play heavily once you start traveling.
Yeah.
Because once you start doing altitude differences and temperature differences, then that can really start changing how the power factor actually is, how consistent it is. But if you're just staying local, do whatever you want. Go with God.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, if it knocks down poppers, that's all that matters.
The one thing is to have something that's just consistent, because if you're throwing different bullet weights and different velocities into your gun, or mixing magazines, or doing something like that, and you actually want it to be accurate, or hit to the point of aim of the dot, consistency in this game, consistency, like having a working gun, having working bullets, having a holster and equipment that you meant, like the more consistently you do the same thing, the better the outcomes get, and the easier it is to work on the personal performance and not the equipment performance. Like, reliability and accuracy is always better than how the thing feels. And man,
yeah,
I like this thing so much. I got this on it, and I got that on it, and it's just like, dude, you'd be better off with a Gen 3 Glock and a mill and a Delta point on that thing, and to shoot that thing, and like just have it work.
So I have my the Garmin radar that I use for all my chrono and stuff now. And what was it? 2 nights ago, I went out to the range, and Wednesday I sent all my ammo to Nationals. I shipped it out, and so when Thursday, whatever, I went and I took it all out there, and I shot across it, and I shot. And it was all pretty consistent, 133, 134, 131,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden I had a 124, and I'm like, wait, what? I mean, it came in at like 1086. I'm like, what the fuck just happened there? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, now I'm playing this stupid game of like, I know the ammo is consistent. It was probably just a bad throw.
Yeah.
But now I've got that in the back of my head, and I'm like, should I just take like a whole brand new set of ammo to this match?
Well, and the one thing is, like, you just don't want, like, that's fine if you have one of those when they go out there, and they, like, it'll drop the chrono down a little bit, but the average will be fine. It's just like please do not pull 3 of those out of the batch of ammunition. Like, please don't do that. That would not be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so it's like I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, well, do I do the Steiner thing where I put where I put my 8 bullets in the bag along with a $20 bill? I don't know if Nationals is a little bit more bougie, so you have to like put a 50 in there. I'm not sure how that exactly goes, but
What
Well,
happens if you have a squib in your chrono rounds? Does
yeah,
that count as 0?
you take another round.
Oh,
shoot it
what if
out.
they're all squibs?
Well, then they're like, oh, you must be on the PARAcast with Tommy.
What you do is you get a box of 100 critical defense hollow points. You get your Hornady critical defense, and then you get your factory critical defense the hottest shit you can get that has the same bullet tip. And then you load a bunch of those, and so when you give them the carry ammo for the chrono, you go, "Are you really shooting these for the match?" And they go, "Yeah, right here." And you have your little loaded 100s. I've been shooting these all the time. And then they're like, "Oh, okay." And then so when you get your 142 power factor out of it, and then you're shooting the rest of these, critical defenses, which are, that you've loaded at like 130, you know, everything's great. Or you could just do what you're supposed to do and just show up shooting single stack with 45 because
They all fall to ball.
they all fall to ball.
For my third favorite Californian, Sebastian, any of you have any experience with tricking out 1022s? What are your thoughts on Volkortsen, Kid? I don't know how to say this name. Tandem Cross.
I have no
Tandem
idea.
Cross.
Never owned a
Parts.
1022.
I owned a 20. I still have it. I bought a 1022 a long time ago. And we were out camping, and the way the magazine release works for that little rotary magazine, I must have popped it out at some point, and I thought, and I lost it. So I have never had good things to say about the 1022 ever since then. Like if I ever use one, I have a little piece of tape that goes over the magazine well now because I'm just so paranoid about how it drops it out.
Yeah.
It's a silly thing, but it's just weird, stupid scars that I can't get over.
That's some
They're not-
boomer shit.
Oh, it totes is. Yeah. But it was I like the gun. I think it's a great gun. But honestly, in this day and age, I mean, the Smith & Wesson 1522, that's honestly my most favorite. That's my favorite 22 I own in terms of a rifle. I got that from Jared. It was a great gun.
That's because I blessed it.
Yes, I have. I mean, we take that thing out, and me and the kids, we have the best time with it. I mean, well, I've got my bolt gun 22, but I love that little Smith & Wesson. It's just a hoot to shoot. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I haven't played with 1022s either.
Yeah. From Ron Davison, what's your favorite place to get shooting shirts? Techwear USA, which is closed down.
Are they really closed?
Yeah.
BBI
BBI
closed. Black Bullets International. You just like it. I would probably say I don't know anything, and I'd probably say it's not from lack of business because they were a great place and they had fast shipping and everything was great, and probably doing the order. My guess would probably be some health reason to close that place down, but like
that or he just honestly he probably just got old and just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I'm not old, old is subjective, but maybe he's just got tired of it.
Well, I would imagine handling lead for that long a period of time, you probably get to a point where you're just like, this ain't worth it anymore. Like you might have a couple health scares and like you can do many other things, but like, I have very fond memories of Black Bullets International, and
BBI was the very first coated bullet I ever tried.
Yep.
Steve Kotsky and I, we saw it. I don't know if we saw it like in an IDPA journal magazine or something like that, but we're like coated bullets, and neither one of us wanted to be the first one to be the guinea pig on it. Like, do you want to go splitsies on it? Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
And kind of never really looked back. They're for our game. They just work exceptionally well.
Yep. It's sad to see them go.
But as far as shooting shirts, well, the two big ones that I know of, one is obviously Go Fast Don't Suck. That's Bill Duda's company. There's the one that Andy Erickson always talks about on Not Another Shooting Show, which is MW Activewear. That's Michelle, and I'm always going to butcher her name, and I apologize for it. Michelle Weitzel, I believe. Michelle and Todd Weitzel. She does a really good job with her stuff. and she's a very talented designer and offers shooting shirts at exceptionally good prices. So that's either one of those. Bill Duda or Michelle Weitzel would both be fantastic places to go look. She did the shirts for. I know she did the shirts for the Utah State Steel Challenge match, and did a fantastic job with them. They turned out awesome. But yeah, those are the two places I know.
Sweet.
From JT, what advice recommendations would you give to someone new getting into handguns now? A friend recently asked me this question. My first response was to get a Glock 19. However, I've been wondering if it's still the best advice given all the new platforms available today. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's probably still the best. I mean, there's guns that are probably better suited for USPSA, but honestly, you could get a Gen 5 Glock 19, MOS or whatever like that. It'll probably be just fine. Like, if it's going to be the first gun, Gen 5 Glock 19, you'll be just fine doing that. Go get yourself a precision holster or something like that for USPSA, and go get yourself a concealed carry holster, and you can get Glock Gen 5 17 magazines and 17 round magazines. Put any number of base plate on them and just throw them in there, and it's got kind of the pre-built magwell, and they're pretty dang accurate. Like
Yeah.
something like that, or an M&P, like you'll be fine.
Here's
Jared?
why I always
wouldn't.
kind of recommend the Glock 19. And it's not because it's a great gun or anything like that, but it's common. And what I like to tell people is go buy a Glock 19, shoot it for 6 months, but really shoot it. Like shoot it a lot. Enough that you actually start to learn what you like and don't like about a firearm. Because the Glock 19 is a good firearm. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's just a good firearm. But in that 6 months time, you'll figure out the things that you like, and then you can at least take that and then resell it for pretty much what you put into it, and then you'll have all the knowledge to go find the gun that you like. And if you happen to like it, great. But otherwise, at least you then have knowledge to go into it. That's kind of how I look at it. But there's so many damn good guns out there. And I don't know that it's the be all end all anymore.
I have never bought the Glock 19 hype. I've never they're fine, but it's a Honda Civic. It's fine. Like it's a Honda Civic. Like cool. Nobody. I don't know. So I have two answers to what gun should I buy as the first gun ever. My first answer is the pragmatic one that I would just suggest to everyone is just I would buy Canik Rival SFX or whatever the new one is. They're like $400. Good gun, good package, comes with everything you need. Nothing you don't. Already has the fibers on there, don't they? And like they're good setups.
It does have all the bells and whistles. The issue is Canik's quality control is, are you going to get a lemon one, which is common.
Is that really?
People do have that.
I haven't heard.
People do have that experience
really heard that.
I mean, outside of like, sorry, Tommy, you were breaking up, but outside of like Kevin Isaac, who's had some struggles, but I mean, he's a competitive shooter and he puts thousands. Yeah, mostly they seem to be pretty good.
80,000 rounds through.
A lot of them are pretty good, but there are ones that have feeding issues, and there were ones earlier off too that also had accuracy issues.
If they're having that kind of problem, is that something that the company is going to? I mean, the company's going to back that up, right? I mean,
if it's having feeding problems, they'll probably back it up. I don't really know any company that's really good at like accuracy issues. But yeah, like definitely like a full size M&P, like a 5-inch M&P. Like I saw one of those bad boys on Gun.Deals for like $396.
So that goes into my second answer. My first answer is just the basic bitch answer. I'd say Canik Rival SFX. The second answer is kind of going into what Tom talked about earlier. Go to the gun store, play with guns, see what gun you like. If it's a USP Tactical, get it. If it's a SIG 226 and you like it because you saw it on that Navy SEAL show, or if it's a 1911 or whatever the fuck it is, if you like the gun, you are more likely to shoot it a lot, which is what Robert mentioned.
Yep.
those two things are very, very important. Everybody always wants to get like the best performing gun, and everybody suggests a Glock 19, but really, there's not a lot of new shooters that'll pick up a Glock 19 and be like, yeah, I want to shoot
Yep.
this a ton. Because it's just a basic ass bitch gun. And there's nothing wrong with that because Honda Civics are fantastic cars and they're great for commuting. They're great for all the stuff. But are they going to want to make you do it? Maybe not. A gun that you actually vibe with, as Tom says, and a gun that you actually prefer and a gun that you actually like, I think that's a lot more important than what other people will give it, than what other people will say. Because there's like, you see it a lot on these Facebook groups. Some dude jumped on Facebook and was, hey, I'm in this group, Limited Optics. Some guy posted about how, hey, I just got this SIG X5 P226. I got a red dot on it. I'm going to come shoot it in Limited Optics. Do you think it'll be a good gun? And all these people were just bashing on it and talking about how shitty of a choice he made.
It's a
When
fucking banger of a blaster.
Well, yeah, and honestly, the big thing is, and for what I said was like, listen, if you like shooting it and it'll actually get you out to matches, shoot it. Because that's the most, and that's the hardest thing, is actually shooting it. It's not, once you're actually out shooting and once you're actually once you're actually the proverbial rock rolling down the hill, then yeah, then you can kind of course correct. And if you want to get a bougie ass bitch gun, or if you want to go the other way and go to the stock service pistol route or whatever it is, you can do that. But the hardest part is to actually start. And if you don't get a gun that you like, if you just get a gun that's like, oh yeah, I mean, it's there, I never shoot it because I don't really like it, I don't like the grip, or blah, 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 blah. But if you go buy some stupid ass Miami Vice Canic and it's painted cyan blue and pink and black and you love it and you go and you shoot that a lot, that's going to help you a
that's
lot
kind of
more.
cool.
Yeah,
Right? But that's going to help you a lot more and if you actually shooting it. And so rule number one for me is you got to get a gun that you like. So go and pick. Most guns nowadays, honestly, are fine. Go to the gun store, finger bang all the guns you can, and choose a gun that you like. Choose a gun that you'll actually go and shoot. And if that happens to be a Glock 19, good for you. You're one of God's chosen. If it happens to be a SIG 226, a 2022, a SIG HKP 30, whatever it is, a Shadow 2, or if it's a Staccato, I don't care what it is, as long as it's a gun that you like and you're actually going to shoot. That's the important thing.
yeah,
There's a lot of truth to that, no, for sure. The hard thing that we've seen when people would come into the store, and this is getting pretty dated, but it's still true to an extent, is when you're first starting out, most people, they pick up the gun that feels the best in their hand, and functionally they just don't know what they don't know. Oh, it feels really good in the hand. Okay, well, does it shoot? Does it do what you want it to? Now, to your point, Jared, most of these guns today are not the guns that we would make that argument with, like, was it 5-6 years ago? They've just gotten really good. Accuracy out of a polymer firearm has gone through the roof. I mean, every single one of these new guns are just incredibly accurate for what they're going to do. And so you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, go find something that gets you excited, makes you get out of bed in the morning, sort of thing, right?
Well, the one thing about getting out of bed in the morning is eventually you have to roll over and realize who you're sleeping with. Personal experience. So the one thing I would say
What
about
makes
that,
you get out of bed quicker, though?
the one thing that I would say is something about something like a Glock 19, and all of us are saying, hey, you can go out there and find anything else that you want and go play with that, and as long as it gets you out of bed, like, that's fine. Like, I have a bunch of guns that are impractical for doing things, but I study service pistol, 9mm, and like 45 caliber handguns, and I know how they work. The one thing that you have to realize is that when you have a gun like a Glock 19, I know that a Glock 19 is going to fit most people's hands and give enough people room to grip on the gun, and that most people, by watching a YouTube video, can take down the gun and understand how it works. And that's the beauty of the Honda Civic. You can turn it into a Type R, or you can turn it into some Eco Blaster or whatever you want to do with it. But you can understand the gun. And the other part about when people go and they grab guns that they think they feel good is they do not know what they actually want out of a grip when they go pick out their first gun. A lot of the times they'll put one hand on the grip and they'll squeeze the gun and they'll go, "Oh, this feels very thin in my hand and it feels great." And what they don't realize is like, I don't have enough room to get my damn support hand on this gun. Guess what gun I know every mother effer in the world can get a support hand on the gun with a change of a backstrap or whatever like that? A Glock 19. So, hey, if you want a 226 or a Beretta, I'm all for that. Get a video that shows you how the thing works and that you can detail strip it and play around with it. But like, I know that I can get an Apex trigger, put a dot on any freaking Glock 19, and the thing's going to be accurate and it's going to run, and then the person can understand it and install the stuff and then maintain it.
I will say, I just kind of like thinking about this. No matter what you do, don't get a subcompact as your first gun.
Don't get baby guns.
They are hard to shoot. They're hard to learn. I mean, give yourself as much advantage. I mean, heck, we talk about this in the new shooter match. And like people are like, I shoot a 365, and I'm like, that's cool. You're like, is that a good gun? I'm like, it's a great gun if you know how to shoot it.
Yeah, there's
you really quickly learn how hard it is to shoot a smaller gun at the beginning level, right? I'm not
baby guns are not great.
If you can,
they're hard to learn.
Honestly, like if the best gun for USPSA to start a gun, there's the full size M&P, there's the full size Glock 17, there's the SIG 226. Like going even away from the compact gun to the full size gun, if you can get away with carrying that, if it's going to be like dual role USPSA in carrying, if you can get away with doing that, do that. It's a much better experience than even the Glock 19. And the reason why the Glock 19 is so popular is because it can kind of do everything okay, but there are things that do full size handguns do things better, like a SIG P226 X5, which is like a 45-ounce single action big old blaster that's accurate at all the live long day.
There you go.
Is that it?
Yeah, we're at 1:30. Yeah, let's
yeah.
Let that be it.
They did have that SIG lawsuit. SIG lawsuit.
We can talk about it if you want to.
$2.3 million. This guy was pulling out his SIG P320 out of a holster in 2018, and before he could get it out of the holster, it discharged and blew up the holster. And so it says since 2018, Sig Sauer has been sued dozens of times by civilians and members of law enforcement who claim their P320 has a design flaw which leaves it susceptible to unintentional shootings. Until this week's verdict in Georgia, none of those cases had resulted in finding of liability against the company. The company did settle 2 cases out of court, both involving members of law enforcement who were injured with their department-issued guns causing leg injuries. So,
I don't know. Honestly, I've seen so many people that have been shot with unloaded guns that anytime somebody says, like, I wasn't doing nothing, I'm just so inclined to disagree with them. And now I know that these SIGs have been having some pretty big problems. And so, right, I'm torn. Like, SIGs have problems, and that's kind of a feature set of a brand new SIG of you get to be the beta tester for the company.
So,
but still,
reading into this one a little bit, they actually had pretty significant evidence, whereas like the gun went off inside the holster, like the way that the holster exploded, it was very indicative of the fact that no, this gun was fully holstered. Like it
didn't cycle around or anything like that.
Yeah, and so there are a number of things that were actually indicators that showed that this gun was 100% holstered. And so that was, I think, one of the reasons why this particular company won. Also, a lot of times with these big litigation lawsuits, a lot of it is trying to find the loophole, because the first couple lawsuits will be trying to find the hole and then they can't find it. So they just keep getting blocked and blocked and blocked. And so the first lawsuit will try angle A, second lawsuit, angle B, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until you find, angle G. Apparently, angle G is enough to provide a preponderance of evidence, which in a civil case gives it enough to say, no, we find in favor of the defendant or the plaintiff or whatever.
Well, the one thing too,
I think that's part of it.
we are not hearing the lawsuits about all these other new pistols that are coming out. We are hearing it about the Sig Sauer P320, and we're not even really hearing about the 365 or something like that. Like there's better designs out there than that gun, and it's like
Well,
the accidental or unintentional discharges of the guns that people are showing like are just going off. And then we also have problem two, which is they fire out a battery if you're quick enough on the trigger and then self detonate.
that's called a
Like
feature.
yeah, that's for the splits. And so yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like I honestly I had two 320s. I love them. I think they shoot great. I think they feel great. And they were pretty dang reliable when I was messing around with them shooting. I would love Sig to lose, not love to see them lose, but I would love for them to come out with a second generation of that gun, which changes a lot of things. But the problem is they are neck deep into that design. They've produced a ton of them. It's the only thing I think the only pistol that sells more than the P320 is the 365. So they are neck deep into that, and it just kind of
Well, this is going to open up the floodgates because
yeah.
once they find out that angle
Yep.
G is the angle to hit, now everybody else, all the other lawyers
That's
basically
what you're
cheat off
saying.
of each other.
Okay.
And so now the future lawyers will just be like, "Oh, see that? That one over there? Yeah, that. What he said."
Yep. And
And
hopefully they come out with some different version of the gun or whatever, or some retrofit or figure something out to whatever. But like no matter what the option is like Jared was saying, if like they know that they have a chink in the armor that people can exploit, like they are going to need to retrofit those guns. And I was watching Stager had a video on it, and he was talking about he seems like this is happening with some of the older guns. Like this was a 2018 incident, and some other the stuff were longer. If they've already maybe possibly corrected that issue. But the one thing that they run a SIG runs into the problem is as long as they internally change it, then all the lawsuits that are pending from all these things that might have happened before they made the changes, then they're basically admitting, yeah, it's kind of messed up.
right.
So
Well, that's why a lot of companies don't do recalls because if you do a recall, you're admitting fault.
Oh, that's a funny thing you mentioned that. Like my SIG, excuse me, my CZ. So mine's a 2017, but if you look at the difference between the 2017 and like the stuff that's coming out today, they've changed the internals on this thing,
yeah, rolling
and
changes.
they never told
Those
us why.
sons of bitches.
But I mean, that's probably why, right? I mean, like, oh, we got a problem here, so we're gonna change this, that, or
Right.
the other.
Yep.
M&Ps did that. M&P did that a million
The
times.
the
Smith and
jet
Wesson. There
the
are how
jet
many
the
how many
jet
Gen 1s
the
of
gen
the Gen 1?
the Gen 1 was nothing but a year over year rolling change.
Every single
Firing
year.
pin block,
Wow.
trigger bar, trigger shoot. Like it, slide
The
releases to give it a
barrel.
more tactical reason. I have at least 3 iteration changes of the freaking barrel. Like
No
everything
kidding.
on that gun was a rolling change. And then they were smart and just launched a Gen 2. And here's the dumb thing, like you can have a gun that's possibly slightly worse, give it a new grip texture and some other thing and make it a bunch of safer and come out with the Gen 2. But I they have sold so many of those damn P320s. They got the military contract on them. They have all these things that are going on. Like having a rolling change on that thing is maybe they have some, maybe they don't, but like coming out with a brand new Gen 2, that's going to be rough for them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to see where this is going to go because it's very curious to see because allegedly they already fixed the supposed problem. But I also saw, I think in the lawsuit, there was something about how not having the dingus, the trigger finger, the trigger
Yeah,
safety,
the drop safety.
not having the trigger safety in there. Well, like, you know how the Glock has like the little thing that
Yep.
sticks out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
it's a drop safety.
yeah, not having that is a negligent design. And that with that particular firearm, I was reading something about that. And so that's
Why?
interesting.
Uh
Just
I mean,
that's
because the
it's
M&P has the
it,
M&P
it,
has
it
the hingey thingy.
M&P has a hinge, and so what this is, it's an inertial safety. So if you drop a gun like this without a finger on the trigger, it hits back. When the gun stops falling, the trigger is still in motion and hasn't stopped falling. So the Glock safety prevents the trigger from falling backwards because
that piece is in place, which then arrests the
trigger on it. The M&P
okay.
the M&P does the same function through the hinge. It prevents it from falling. Double action guns,
same but different.
Same but different. Double action guns have all these things, and most single action guns have a half cock position, which means if the trigger goes and releases the hammer but it doesn't fully go, the half cock will catch the hammer. And so you have a little bit of a drop safety there, basically an inertial drop.
But P320s don't have any type of drop
do not have. And then that's
seriously?
Yep. So that's why when Omaha Outdoors found out, well, they did. Remember, like it is not the P320
retrofitting the 250.
The 250, and the 250 had a hammer. So as it falls, there's no a place on the frame that would catch it. Now, other people, I think like Agency has one that actually has the shoe, but on the original P320, the trigger, which was a steel trigger or aluminum trigger, was heavy enough that when it fell on the back of the slide at a certain angle, the trigger would carry enough momentum and it would fire. And so SIG's update was they got you a new trigger shoe and they hollowed out the trigger shoe so the trigger shoe was lighter, so it would not carry as much force as when it fell. And so, but the other part is now we're having things where like people are trying to move them out of their holster and somehow the striker's being finagled. And I'll still remember this from Ernest Langdon's class when he goes, that M&P has a pre-cocked striker, and because we have the hammer hidden, everyone's okay with having it cocked. And then he pointed to somebody with the CZ. If we saw them walking around with their hammer back and their safety off, we would be like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Now, an M&P is safer pre-cocked than a CZ with the cocked without the hammer locked. But we are in the pursuit of trigger pulls and the pursuit of turning classifications and hit scores higher and higher and making people feel like they're better with guns, we have decided to pre-cock the strikers and make the triggers as easy as possible to do this. And Sig went full-blown easy. Good trigger, though.
Yay.
So anyway, thanks for downloading, listening, and subscribing. We appreciate all you guys do for us, and we'll keep making these shows till we die or something else happens. So for Robert Wyatt and Jared Stepp, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of a sea of life on another episode of the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Doot doot.
Quick, let's name all the other shooting shows that started that didn't even get to episode 20. Let's go. Here we go.
NAS. Oh, wait, never mind.